Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Friday. We have 9 NBA games today to get us started for this weekend, so let's go ahead and get started. As always, if you enjoy the videos, appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Yesterday, the Spurs were a big letdown once we got the news that they were going to be without Murray, Pirtle, and we got the starting lineup with a lot of the cheap guys like Thad Young and Derek White, still pretty affordable. Went with them, and they ended up getting blown out, so Pop didn't play his starters much, besides like Trey Jones, who did. He was one of the few guys that really came through. But move ahead and go on to today, see if we can get back on track. Looking at the point guard plays today, we have a good amount of options, some questionable pieces that we're waiting on, like DeJounte Murray is still up in the air, his status on this back-to-back. If he is in, he looks great against Houston. If he's out, we'll go right back to like Derek White against Houston. It's just such a good spot. I'll probably go back to like Trey Jones and definitely go back to Thad Young if there's no Pirtle as well. But we're looking at Luka at 11-9. He continues to play well without Porzingis. Back-to-back 3 straight games of over 30 real-life points. He's hit at least 4 threes during that stretch, double-doubles in all of them. Flirts with triple-doubles every single game. He's going to take over 20 shots, possibly over 30 shots like he did last game against the Thunder, where he's just going to have to look for a shot unless somebody else steps up. Last game, they got a good game off the bench from Reggie Bullock, but if Luka doesn't have anybody else that steps up offensively without Porzingis, without Hardaway, he's probably just going to have to do a lot of the scoring himself, which is perfectly fine. Other guys that look appealing, not that interested in Kyrie. Trey Young looked really good yesterday, but 10K against on a back-to-back set. Definitely he's playable, but even putting out 43 real life points, he wasn't great for DFS with 54 at a 10K price tag. You're looking for at least 60. The assists were down, so maybe you think that he can get back up to like 10 plus assists today. In the 8K range at the bottom end, you have Van Fleet and Karis LeVert. Van Fleet is probably a safer option. He plays a ton of minutes, very consistent, even though he had a tough shooting night yesterday. He still put up 43 fantasy points, a couple of steals, just missed out on a double-double. Put up 45 against the Hawks earlier this season, and it is a good matchup. Should be another kind of higher scoring game. And then you have Karis LeVert on the other end, who's still going to be playing without Brogdon, playing without Sabonis. So he does give you upside. We saw some of that last game where he played 34 minutes and put up 45 fantasy points. I would still, Van Fleet's probably still going to play like 5 or so more minutes than LeVert, and I think LeVert might get some more ownership. So I'll go back to Van Fleet. He does give you that 50-point upside, and he's probably going to be at least in the 40s like he usually always is. We're getting Donovan Mitchell back, but don't know how many minutes he'll play. He's coming back from a concussion, so he might not be limited. But he also could be a little bit rusty with his shot, and I do expect him to look for a shot early and often. But still, I don't know if I want to feel great about playing him when I have LeVert and Van Fleet, basically the same price tag. I do like Josh Giddey at 77 going up against this Portland team. It's a great matchup. Portland plays terrible defensively. Only concern is that they're on the road, but Portland's still missing Dame, obviously, so should be a better chance of this game staying close. Giddey has done everything in just terms of contributing with points, rebounds, assists. One of these days he's going to have another triple-double with that SGA, so hopefully you can kind of get one today, or at least get close to one. Definitely like Giddey over Maxey, even though Maxey had another good game last time out. Rozier at 72. That's not the best matchup to target going up against Cleveland, and they could get Hayward back, so won't be too appealing. In the 6K range, definitely look to Derek White if there is no Murray. Yeah, he did play well. He had 6 turnovers, no defensive stats, but he did put up 29 fantasy points in just 22 minutes. Weren't expecting him to play that little minutes. It ended up being a blowout, and then Pop to set these guys on a back-to-back. So if there is no Murray, I go right back to Derek White, just like went right back to Dinwiddie the other day. 5K range, you have Dosunmu at 56, especially if Zach LaVine isn't able to play, he looks better. Same thing with Kobe White. He would probably start if there's no Zach LaVine today. And then in the 4K range, looking at Jalen Green, 43. Trey Mann looks great. Goodwin looks good. He got the start last game, played 32 minutes, put up almost 30 fantasy points. Price tag did come up way up, and he did get 7 rebounds, which is probably not going to happen too often. But I still think he looks like a good value pick. And that is basically it. I like those guys better than the 3K options besides Trey Jones if he does happen to start again. As shooting guard, not really looking at Kyrie, not really looking at LaMelo, even though he did play well last game. LaVine is questionable if he plays. I'm not too interested at 9,000. If he's out, definitely look to like DeRozan, Vooch, some of the other guys like Busumo and Kobe White. Guys that I have my interest in are like Derek White, 64. You could go back to Gary Trent. Came back down to earth a little bit last night, but still, people might jump off of him because it didn't come through yesterday. I do like the value picks in this range. In the 4K range, you have Reggie Bullock with a lot of upside. You have Jalen Green. You have Trey Mann. All look pretty appealing. I'm going to go ahead and put in Trey Mann at 42. He's coming off of a great game last time out, and he played 41 minutes in that one, and he's probably going to play a lot of minutes today because Aaron Wiggins is already ruled out for the game, and he's a guy that starts for the team, and he plays high 20s in minutes. He got hurt in the fourth quarter last game where he played 24 minutes, so they have 24 more minutes to spread around to these guys. I think Mann, if he's playing well, he's going to absorb a lot of them, and he has shown the ability to score the basketball. Small forward, not really looking at Tatum at his price tag. Is really expensive. Same thing with like Jaylen Brown. I play Brown over Tatum, but I don't think either one are priorities or must plays. I'm going to like Lou Dort at 64, another guy that took over in the overtime. He had like, I think at least 10 points in overtime. And at the end of the fourth quarter, made some nice shots. 6 threes from last game. He's benefited without SGA like all these guys in terms of just getting more usage, more shots, getting more of these peripheral stats like rebounding, assists. Still good with the defensive stats with steals and blocks. The price tag is super reasonable for a guy that gives you 40, 45 point upside and has a ceiling of over 50 if he has a big game with threes or steals. Other options would be like, you could look to Holiday, Finney-Smith, Craig, depending on some of the news we get out of Indy. Vassell, if he starts, he looks fine at 44. And then in the value range, you have a couple of guys that I like. Right in the 3K range, you have Green, Javonte Green from the Bulls. Played 33 minutes last night. He's typically been playing good minutes recently. That could go up if there's no Zach LaVine. And he's been coming through because he's just a decent rebounder, hits some shots, and gets you some defensive stats, especially steals and blocks. So against a indie team that turns the ball over and is not good defensively, I think he can rack up some more defensive stats. So he looks like a good value pick. A power forward, definitely look to DeRozan potentially if there's no LaVine. He's not a must-play at 95, but would look better. You don't have too many other pay-ups at that position besides him and Siakam. The mid-range is still kind of like Kevin Love just because they don't have anybody else to score the ball right now without Garland, who didn't practice. I think he's already been ruled out for this game. But Kevin Love played 29 minutes off the bench. He took 20 shots, only made 8 of them, and he only made 1 3, so definitely left some points on the table. And the matchup is solid against Charlotte. You can go with the stretch 5 is perfect against this team, against Plumlee and against PJ Washington. You do have some other great value picks at this position in the 4K range. It probably starts with Taylor here, who, if he draws a start again, he did exactly what we kind of thought that Jackson would do. Very unfortunate Jackson getting hurt 20 seconds into the game, but it opened the door for Taylor to come in and put up 52 fantasy points. Don't expect 52 out of him, but if they're without Brissett, if they're without Batadze, and there's a chance he even starts if some of those guys are in, or at least one of those guys are in, just because how well he played. Definitely would look to him. He did dominate the G League, so he does have talent, and he definitely showed that last game. And then you also have another great value pick, which would be Min Price, Thaddeus Young. Jakob Poeltl's in concussion protocols, so I don't expect him to play. But if he is in, then definitely don't go to Thad Young. But probably want to use him I think you can use him at power forward. Yeah, I'd use him at power forward. Wouldn't use a center spot on Thad Young, but he looks like a good value pick. And they're probably trying to trade him, so there's a perfect chance to showcase him a little bit before the trade deadline. And then at center, going with Jokic at 12-4 just because it's a good spot against the Pelicans. He has dominated them both games earlier this year, averaging 70 fantasy points against them. And, Valanciunas is a decent defender at times just because he has his length, but overall centers have had success against him. And good chance Jokic can dominate Valanciunas because he doesn't really want to stretch out to the three-point line when he's defending, and Jokic can make anybody look silly with his passes. So that's it for the first look on the DraftKings slate. Let's go ahead and talk about FanDuel. All right, so on FanDuel, point guard plays, you have Luka Doncic 11-4. He looks excellent going up against Philly just because he's going to have to do so much of the scoring and just offensive load without Porzingis and without Hardaway. in the game. You have some good options in the 8K range with Trae Young and Van Fleet. Both guys look appealing. The value range here, Derek White definitely, if there's no DeJounte Murray, looks great. Brunson looks fine at 58, going to play a lot of minutes again today. And then at the bottom end, you potentially look to like Jalen Green, Colby White, depending on some of the news we get. But I do like Trey Mann a bit at 45 and Goodwin at 45. Both guys look appealing. Probably like Trey Mann a little bit more, just without Wiggins. But I'm going with Jokic. Think we can pay up for him pretty easily. You have a lot of value on the slate, so definitely can go stars and scrubs on both sides. At shooting guard, DeRozan looks fine at 96, but that's going to be dependent on the Zach LaVine news. LaVine, if he does play, definitely can go to him at 77, but you have Karis LeVert, 76. He looks fine as well. The value range, you have Lou Dort at 65, but the better play, well, both guys look great, but Josh Giddey is only 6,000. They haven't jumped his price at all since SGA's been out. I don't know why, because he continues to be underpriced. Small forward, looking in the mid-range a bit here with like LeVert. Ingram, now that he's back, looks good. But definitely going with Dort again. I think both Dort and Giddey look like great plays on FanDuel with their price tags. Both guys going to play high 30s in minutes if the game's close, and both give you a ton of upside. Other picks in the value range would be like Bogdanovich at 51. Go to some of these Pacers guys depending on the news we get. And Bazley would probably start today without, he could start today without Wiggins. And then you have Cedi Osman and Javonte Green in the 4K range. Power forward, Siakam looks fine at 93. You have some decent plays. All of these Cavs guys are similarly priced. Kevin Love, even though he comes off the bench, he does give you a ton of upside. So you could go to Kevin Love if you don't want to get up to Allen or Mobley. Jeremy Grant's back, going up against Boston, not the best matchup, but he is affordable, especially without Cade. He could get some more usage, but the minutes also might not be there on a back-to-back for a guy that's missed so much time. Other picks would be like Bazley as a value pick if he starts. Jackson Hayes potentially if he starts again, and there's no Hernan Gomez, so there's minutes for him to get the backup center. And then you have like Cedi Osman at 43 as a decent option that you can go to. Right now I'm going to go ahead and put in also Collins. Questionable if he doesn't play, then definitely look to like Capella at center. But I'm going to put in Kevin Love at $6,900. And then at center, going to get up to Jokic, try to pay up for both Jokic and Doncic on the slate, fill it out with some solid mid-range plays. You have Embiid similarly priced. You can go to him instead if you wanted to. And then the mid-range, you have Nurkic, Valanciunas. You can play Capella if there's no Collins. And see what the price tag is on Whiteside if he is able to play. He's 64. He looks fine. He should dominate the Brooklyn front court, but we'll see. And that's about it for the video. Thank you for watching. Best of luck tonight, and I'll see you all next time.